stand up.
Yes, stand up.
Thank you guys so much for coming.
Ladies and gentlemen, the debate will be starting soon. Please get to your seats.
Good evening. My name is Ashwin Sharma. I'm a member of the Student Leadership Johns Creek Class of 2022 and the Johns Creek High School Class of 2023. I would like to start this evening by kindly thanking Team Awesome and the Standard Club for making this debate possible. In addition, our ambassador team would like to thank the Secretary of State's office for facilitating an ambassador program. Lastly, I would like to thank candidate Weaver and candidate Bradberry for attending tonight. Next, I would like to introduce each of our student ambassadors. Tonight, we have Tara Ramesh, Purvi Iyer, Ty Devalbhakta, Ava Sun, Anastasia Stoyanov, Harrison Frank, Tia Ranchod, and Shruti Namala. Prior to the debate, I would also like to thank Liz Hausman, our Fulton County Commissioner, Catherine Albright, Alex Alonzo, Abby Poline, who are Leadership Johns Creek board members, Kent Davies, who's a president of the Rotary Club, Tim Jeanette, who's a Johns Creek Chamber president, and Paul Sheen of Banks and Shane. Prior to the debate, we held a coin toss, and the result is that candidate Weaver will be starting with his opening statement, followed by candidate Bradberry. Following in this fashion, candidate Weaver will answer the first question. We have asked the candidates to use their opening statement to describe their vision for Johns Creek. Currently, we are at a crossroads, considering that we haven't had a new mayor in over 15 years, and we're going to have a new council with limited municipal leadership experience. We've asked the two candidates to tell us the number one thing that needs to be done by the upcoming council and how they propose getting that done. Also, for public safety concerns, we have assured that both candidates are vaccinated. This is how the debate will go. Tonight, we will draw a question at random from the box at the moderator table and ask it to the respective candidate. The first candidate will have 3 minutes to answer, his opponent will have 2 minutes to rebut, and the original candidate will have 1 minute to make additional final remarks. We will also have a series of lightning round questions in which the candidates will answer with a simple yes or no. The closing statement will be made first by candidate Bradberry, followed by candidate Weaver. They will both have 2 minutes to close the debate. Please hold your applause until the end of the debate. And finally, I would like you to silence your phones and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our moderators for the debate today will be Tia Ranchod and Shruti Namala. Tia will be asking candidate Bradberry his questions, and Shruti will be asking candidate Weaver his questions. Let the debate begin. Candidate Weaver, please begin your opening statement. Thank you.
Good evening, and thanks for having me. I'd like to say thank you to the Standard Club, also the Johns Creek leadership, and also the directors, Irene Sanders and Mary Bell, to help make sure this event happens today. So just tell you a little bit about me. Born and raised in Athens, Georgia, youngest of 11 kids. Grew up in Athens, Georgia, went to UGA, and moved to Atlanta shortly after that. Ended up getting hired with Johns Creek Police and served there 26 years at Johns Creek Police here. Fulton County Police, and then I ended up retiring and ended up being hired by Johns Creek Police. Stayed there until 2019, and that's when I retired and then ran for city council. My vision for being your next mayor is to make sure we finish the town center, take care of our stormwater, and then make sure we keep the city safe. Those are the three things that we must do, and I would do as your next mayor. Because number one, if the city is not safe, we can't have quality of life, and we can't have economic development. So those are my three main focus areas, on my platform as your next mayor. Now, as being your next mayor, with the new city council coming in, it will definitely be my job to be a leader and make sure I share that vision with the new council. Because in the past, the council has not been working together, and I will make sure that I work closely with my new city council members to make sure we move the city forward, we get town center built, we take care of stormwater, and we continue to make the city safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Weaver. Candidate Bradberry, please begin your opening statement.
Hi, my name is John Bradberry. Can you hear me okay?
No, the volume needs to be up.
Can you hear me okay now?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I want to thank the Standard Club for hosting us. I want to thank Student Leadership Johns Creek, all the students, our director, Irene Sanders. This is going to be the most important election in the history of Johns Creek. I have the experience, competence, and vision to lead what I know has been a good city, but what I know that together we can make an even greater community. I'm running because this is my home. This is our community. My mission, simply put, is just to make it the best that it can be. I'll bring a breadth and depth of life experience to the job of mayor. I served honorably in the United States Marine Corps for 8 years. I've run my business for almost 20 years. Before I was elected to council, where I've been serving you for the last 4 years, I started Preserve Johns Creek to preserve the residential character and quality of life for our residents, and before that, an HOA president. And I want to take this experience and this knowledge to work in leadership of this city so that we can finally accomplish a town center. I'll be the mayor that makes it a reality. I want to make sure that it's going to be unique, that it's going to be vibrant, but I also want to make sure that it's going to be to scale and fitting within the character of our community. Now, to get this done, it's a complex problem, but also an opportunity. I will work with all of the major players in government, in the commercial sector, and the key players at City Hall. I'll convene weekly or bi-weekly meetings until we get this thing done. And it's going to take a mayor that's going to be creative, proactive, and determined. And just finally, I just say that, look, I want to see this be the best community it can be. It was never about making it a big city. It was always about making it the greatest community. And that'll be my focus. And that's my vision. I look forward to the debate.
Thank you, candidate.
Thank you.
Your time is up. Moderators, would you guys like to begin asking the questions?
Mr. Weaver, the first question is for you. How would you collaborate with city, county, and state governments on regional initiatives such as transportation, environment, and economic development?
Thanks for the question. As I stated earlier, I've been in this community over 40 years working. During that time,
Can't hear you.
can you hear me now? Like I said earlier, I've been in this community over 40 years working, and during that time serving with Fulton County Police and Johns Creek Police, we learned how to work with other agencies on the federal, state, and local levels. That's how we got things done. That's how we made sure we cover all the bases, because you can't be everywhere all the time. So you gotta have relationships, you gotta have networks. And that's what I did, and that's what we did as an agency, not only with Fulton County, but also Johns Creek. We made sure we worked with other agencies because crime didn't have any boundaries, so we had to make sure we didn't have any boundaries. We had relationships, we had memo of understanding, what we call MOUs, we had IGAs, intergovernmental agreement. All of those things are things you have to run the city. All those things are things you have to have in order to be successful, because you can't have everything in your budget. Some things you can get done, some things you can't, but you gotta have those relationships to make sure you can get things done and utilize other resources. That's the key. Making sure you can work with other agencies, making sure you have those relationships, and making sure you can get everything done you need done for this city. Because you have to think regional. You can't just think, have to think regional, but act local. So I will make sure that I have the relationships with our surrounding cities, our sister cities here in Fulton, our state government, our federal government, and also other municipalities to make sure Johns Creek is doing what we're supposed to be doing. And that includes regional traffic control, that includes economic development, that includes making the city safe. We have to make sure we're doing the things to keep this city safe, to make sure we keep the quality of life that this city deserves, to make sure this is a safe place for all families, to make sure our economic development is where it should be, and give this community what it deserves. I can tell you, I've been knocking on doors, talking to a lot of people in this community, and the town center is something that we all are looking forward to. People in Johns Creek are tired of going to Peachtree Corners, tired of going to Avalon to spend their money. They would like to spend their money here in Johns Creek, and I will make sure that I get that done by having relationships.
Thank you, candidate Weaver.
Thanks, Brian. Working with our regional partners is important. And case in point, I think that we should talk about the town center specifically and what is going to possibly be the anchor for a town center, if it's going to be successful, and if it's going to be the vibrant, unique place that's going to be a big asset for our community. That is the Performing Arts Center, otherwise known as the Legacy Center. And look, because of where the town center is going to be located, it's not going to exactly be in the center of town. It's going to be right there on the northern edge. The Legacy Center has got a pretty high price tag. It is anywhere from $50 to maybe $75 million. It will likely be something that is enjoyed by not just Johns Creek residents. And I don't think that it's something that should necessarily be just on the responsibility of Johns Creek. I think that if we're going to make this thing a reality, we've got to get creative, and we've got to reach out to places like Forsyth County, because they might be a big beneficiary and they should shoulder some of the cost. I have been developing my relationships with different mayors and other council members in our adjoining jurisdictions in Alpharetta, in Roswell. This isn't really so much a thing here, but down along Nesbitt Ferry in the south part of the city, myself and Lori Henry, we've made a partnership between our two cities to make sidewalks and improvements there a reality. I talk with Mayor Gillivan on a regular basis. For example, Haynesbridge Road is a project that unfortunately is not moving forward, but it may in the future. Maybe we can collaborate more. But I've met with the officials in Forsyth County. And so, environmentally, just take stormwater. Johns Creek actually originates in Forsyth County. So when we talk about the effects of stormwater, that's something that I think that we need to look at, because that problem is originating further north than just our boundaries.
Thank you, candidate Bradberry.
They're giving me the hook. So.
Candidate Weaver, you have 1 minute for closing remarks.
Yes, in order to get our town center built, we would definitely have to have partners, private partnership, philanthropic donations. All of those things would be on the table to make sure we get our legacy center, to make sure we get the town center built. And it's about letting people know Johns Creek is open for business. We've never done that before. We need to be able to attract developers. We have a good brand, and we need to use that brand. We have good schools. Our property values are up. This is a good place to raise a family. Utilize the brand, utilize what we have in Johns Creek, and attract the developers to come to us and show us what they can do for us and show us what they can build for us. We got to open the door for them, and we got to make sure that we give people an opportunity to work with us.
Thank you, candidate Weaver.
Candidate Bradberry, should Johns Creek require affordable housing with new multi-family developments? If yes, specifically, how would you implement this? If no, please explain why.
And just to clarify, did you say require?
Would you like me to restate the question?
Sure.
Should Johns Creek require affordable housing with new multi-family developments? If yes, specifically, how would you implement this? If no, please explain why.
Okay. So, no, I do not think that we should require affordable housing in a mixed-use development. I think that we have got to assume that the market is going to provide those different options that are going to be appropriate for what they perceive as their customers. I do think that we should encourage there to be a diversity of housing options in Johns Creek, especially in the town center. I don't think that it makes sense for us to pack so much density into the town center that it would overwhelm the rest of the community. And so, my opponent has talked about, making more apartments for Johns Creek. That's a place that we differ. He's talked about that we should have 12,000 new residents so that we could increase the tax base. To put all that in Tech Park, I'm sorry, but this area right now is all slated to go to the #2 best school, public school in the state, Northview High School, just across 141. If that plan went forward, it would cause chaos in the school districting and overwhelm our infrastructure. And so I'm very cognizant that we can have vibrancy, we can have it be unique, a fun place for all of us to enjoy, but without us packing in so many people that it completely changes the character and the scale of what is to be an amenity and asset for the residents of Johns Creek that have paid the taxes and built this community. And so I want to make sure that we are going to be very balanced in our approach. There is going to have to be a residency component, but when you look at Alpharetta, for example, do you know that that is the most expensive real estate, residential real estate in all of Georgia? And those are beautiful homes, and that's right there in their downtown town center. And so I think that we can do something very beautiful, and there will be options for people that are maybe new in life, out of college, and that they want to buy something. Or there may be people that have had, the traditional standalone home, but maybe they don't want to do the yard anymore because they're empty nesters, and there should be an option for those people here in Johns Creek as well. But so I don't want to put too much focus on hamstringing what is going to be allowed. I do want to make sure that we are going to do what is necessary with a developer to encourage them to bring amenities to hopefully build at least some parts or all of the Legacy Center, and make this truly something that we're all going to be proud of and that we can enjoy. So thank you very much.
Kendra Weaver, you have 2 minutes to respond.
I would laugh, but my opponent's giving out numbers. I don't know where he gets his numbers from, but I'm just gonna smile about it. But I don't know where my opponent is getting his numbers from. I don't know, but I'll just laugh at it. But the bottom line is, we must make sure that our town center has a balance of housing, entertainment, and also commercial development. As far as affordable housing, there's affordable housing already in Johns Creek. A lot of people don't know that. There is. So we can continue to utilize certain areas that are blighted, certain areas that are not developed for affordable housing, to utilize some of the blighted areas to make sure we develop them and make them affordable. There's already housing in Johns Creek. A lot of you probably don't know there's affordable housing, but we can make it better. We can do better in certain areas that are not being taken care of by their homeowners, and utilize that. But yes, the town center is a place for residential housing. We need more options here in Johns Creek. We have a lot of empty nesters, and they're looking for housing, what I call transitional housing. They no longer wants to stay in the same 4 or 5 bedroom house. They want to downsize, and they no longer want to take care of their landscaping, their yard. They'd rather have something small like you have in the other town centers at Suwanee, you have it at Duluth, and also at Avalon. You can have different levels. But that's up to the council, and that's up to the residents here to decide what we want on the town center. That's why everything is still on the table, and we're building it from the ground up to make sure we get input from the ground up.
Thank you, Candidate Weaver.
So where I get that information from about apartments is from my opponent's website, and regarding the 12,000 new population, that comes from Facebook, a post just this week talking about how our neighbors to the north of Forsyth County, that they stand to grow their population by 14%, and that we need to do the same. We're slated to only grow by 0.2%. I gotta tell you, I think that's okay. You know, look, if the goal, as was stated in the Facebook post, is to grow the tax base, it's true. We will bring in more revenue if we grow the population. The problem is, for every resident that we bring in, we're actually spending more in services. And so it doesn't actually accrue to the overall benefit at the bottom line of the city treasurer. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate.
We are now going to be moving on to our first round of lightning questions. Question 1. Do you support any sort of defunding of the police department in Johns Creek? Yes or no?
I want to make sure it doesn't say on.
Sorry. Question 2.
They both said no.
Question 2. Would you support tax collection managed by the city? Yes or no? Trash. Sorry.
Say it, repeat the question.
Would you support trash collection managed by the city? Yes or no?
Candidate Weaver said yes, and Candidate Bradberry said no.
Question 3. Should the city require COVID-19 vaccinations for all city employees with the standard exemptions? Yes or no?
Yes.
Candidate Bradberry said no, and Candidate Weaver said yes.
That's it for the lightning round. We're moving on to the next question.
Mr. Weaver, the mayor is responsible for preparing a budget. What single line item would be your #1 priority if you were elected? Please name another key issue that you would want to be successful with in your first year, and why?
Repeat the question again.
The mayor is responsible for preparing a budget. What single line item would be your #1 priority if you were elected? Please name one other key issue that you would want to be successful in your first year, and why?
Well, I have to start with the town center. Make sure we get that taken care of. That's something our citizens been waiting on. Our citizens here in Johns Creek are tired of going to other places, spending their money, having not a place to dine or have a concert, or just enjoying time with their family. Can you imagine just having a place here in Johns Creek where you can spend the whole day, have dinner, go to a concert at the Legacy Center, or either at the park, which would be right behind City Hall. It'll be an amazing day for our citizens in Johns Creek, to be able to stay in Johns Creek and spend their money. It'll be an opportunity that they've been waiting on, that we all are looking forward to, because no one wants to keep driving to Alpharetta or Peachtree Corners. We like to just enjoy ourselves here in Johns Creek. And the second would be stormwater. That's something that's been neglected for 15 years, and it has been horrific and devastating to our homeowners. We gotta get it done right. We gotta get it fixed. And I know we will get it fixed with the new city council coming in, and with me and you as your mayor. I would definitely make sure we get that taken care of and make sure we do it the right way. and make sure our homeowners feel that they have not been betrayed. Thank you.
Thank you. So obviously the town center is something that we are going to have a big focus on. It's unclear at this point exactly what will be the city funding responsibility because we've already got money allocated through T-SPLOST that's going to go for infrastructure. There will be a big need for programming. And right now, when I say programming, I'm talking about those things that are activities and events, those things that bring our community together in our parks and at different community locations. And I really think that this is an area that we need to think about increasing. I advocated for some increase in it in this last budget cycle. And right now we only spend $176,000 a year on programming. And so that's all of the youth sports programming. Those are the different things that we do in our parks. I really think one of my key parts of my platform is building greater community. And a key part of that is, of course, bringing different parts of our community together, all parts of our community together, having those events in all parts of the city. And right now, we have got everything going at Newtown Park. I would love to see us have more things happening in the Linear Park, which is where the town center will start out. So there are a lot of opportunities for us to improve in this area. Again, my focus is not necessarily to become a big city, but to become a greater community. Thank you.
Candidate Weaver, you have 1 minute for final remarks.
Well, yeah, we definitely need some improvements in our parks for our youth to make sure that they have what they need. Right now, there's a shortage of athletic fields and park space in Johns Creek. We all know that. So we need to do whatever we can to rectify the situation. We have Colley Creek Park coming on board. So hopefully we can have some athletic fields there and have enough space there to fill some of the void left by our youth programs. We need to make sure we continue to develop and maintain our other parks and our other amenities. But we definitely need to make sure that we're doing what we're supposed to do in order to provide the necessary fields and recreation areas for our youth and make sure we maintain our parks that we have now. But Colley Creek would definitely be a benefit, and hopefully that'll be done here in the near future. Yeah.
Thank you.
Candidate Bradberry, what is your vision for the Town Center project? How do you see the Town Center morphing in the next 5 years? Give specifics as to what the first step should be in developing a vibrant town center.
Thank you, Tia. So there are really 2 tracks that I see for the town center. There's an easier track, which is going to be that part of the town center that we actually own the property. So right now, we only own the 20 acres in the Linear Park that's behind City Hall, and then City Hall has got about between 6 and 7 acres. And so we will be able to do a pretty quick, I think, and relatively easy, because we do own the property. We will not have tons of space there. There's a large lake, and then you've got the trail and the office buildings that are around it. But we will be able to activate a town center to get started. And that's the most important thing sometimes. Now, where the real leadership is going to be necessary, if we are really going to make this into something that I think is really going to be exciting and something that is going to be incredibly vibrant and really activate the economy of the area, is those parcels that are around this property that we own, one of which is a State Farm property. That's 55 acres. Currently, that is empty. So U.S. Realty owns that piece of property. They've got just a few employees there. They're basically just keeping it in mothballs, just keeping it maintained. But so that is either the biggest threat to us or the biggest opportunity. If it lies fallow, it's not going to be good for Tech Park overall. But if we have a mayor that can provide the leadership to bring different people together, if we can get creative, if we can find the right commercial partners, I think that we could do something incredibly special with that property. I think that that's somewhere that I would love to see us have a town green, where we could have all of our different festivals, art festival, international festival. You know, we could also have concerts where you could be out there and enjoy music that would be coming, hopefully, from a legacy center. But you know, the other thing that really excites me is I would love to think that we're going to have some great restaurants, and that maybe you could go out and have a beer, or maybe a slice of pizza, or some fine dining. And wouldn't it be nice if there was a big jumbotron up there that you could watch a good football game, maybe like when Georgia beat Clemson. So, you know, I just lost the Clemson crowd. Hopefully you'll forgive me by election day. But look, that is something that I think is truly a big opportunity for us. You know, like I said before, I do want to really make a partnership with Forsyth County because of where this is going to be located, they're going to be as much of a beneficiary possibly as we are. And so I want to make sure that we can work with them to try to figure out how can they carry some of the burden, some of the load, and just try to make it as good as we can for all concerned. Thank you.
Candidate Weaver, you have 2 minutes to respond.
Well, absolutely, the town center would be very attractive, exciting, vibrant. I think we need to start with the linear park where we can have outdoor concerts behind City Hall that will start attracting the people and making sure that people understand and get an idea of what it would be like to have a town center, to have like what we just had this past Saturday, Imagine Main Street, where people will be able to come and enjoy a festive location. And then also at the same time, providing an opportunity to have restaurants around the lake, overlooking the water. I think that would be beautiful when you can just come to our town center and enjoy the atmosphere where you can actually have dinner and you're actually looking over the lake. It's beautiful. I don't know if many of you have ever been in our City Hall, but if you go up to the 3rd floor in City Hall, it's overlooking the lake. I think that is an opportunity there for us to utilize our City Hall like some of these other cities do. They utilize them for special events, wedding, reception, training. That 3rd floor overlooking the lake is immaculate. It's beautiful. But most of you haven't seen it, and it's your tax dollars that bought it, paid for it, and I think it's an opportunity for us to start opening up City Hall, to have special events there, to maybe have training sessions, meetings. That's a source of income that we can utilize and help bringing people to the town center and that area that has not been fully utilized. That area pretty much has been desolate over the last few years, a lot of empty office space, but having a hotel there, I envision that, a 5-star hotel, where you can actually have training sessions, entertain weddings, receptions. I think it's a great opportunity for us to take advantage of the situation and have a 5-star hotel also. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Weaver. Candidate Bradberry, you have 1 minute for closing remarks.
So again, we'll get started on the property that we own. I think that we have to cast a vision that goes beyond just that right there, because so much of it is already occupied, either by the lake, the trail, City Hall. But we can do it, and we can do it in such a way that's going to be fiscally responsible, so that it does not be something, it is not going to be something that is going to overly burden the Johnson Creek taxpayer. But again, I think the real prize is going to be some of these parcels, some of this area that's going to be around that. And so what the city needs to do is we need to be focused on providing the infrastructure. We need to be focused on the public-private partnerships, the zoning incentives that may be required to get a developer ready and willing to actually bite off doing one of these projects, because ultimately it's not going to be the city that's going to build.
Thank you, Candidate Bradberry.
This. Thank you.
Now we'll turn the table and ask you, Mr. Weaver, to ask your opponent a question.
I'd like to ask my opponent, number one question. He says he supports public safety, but why did he not only vote to give our former police chief a settlement of $325,000 when we could have been using that money in our parks, infrastructure, stormwater? But then he also, in 2017, he voted 3 times, not once, not twice, but 3 times, he voted against the new fire station that was just built here on Kimber Bridge Road. I found that kind of puzzling. If he's so supportive of our public safety, our police and our fire, then why is he voting that way? It's not consistent.
I love this question. All right, let's bite off the fire station first. Now, it's true, that 4th fire station, I was skeptical because it was going to serve a fairly narrow geographical area. And so I was more than willing to try to figure out any alternative that we should look at to see if there's a way to satisfy the needs of that small area without the very large capital expenditure. Now, after a lot of research, and after getting the city to do a little bit of a test, an experiment, if you will, with a quick response vehicle, it was determined that that would not indeed be a fit. And so once I had exhausted that, I voted for the fire station. And I don't know of any time that I ever voted against the fire station. And I think that if we can, let's try to get on both of our websites so we can compare notes, because I don't know where you're coming with 3 votes that I voted against the fire station, because I voted for it, and today it's there, and I'm very proud of that fire station. And as a matter of fact, David Shelton, where are you? David Shelton from Seven Oaks, you and I worked closely together. He was HOA president of Seven Oaks. That was one of the areas that was not going to be serviced, and David knows very much how much I supported that fire station. All right, now, on the issue of the settlement, $325,000. It's true. I did vote for the settlement because we had something where the police chief that was installed simply was not going to be able to lead that department. We were in the middle of almost a crisis in this country, with a very fractured country, and the morale and the tension at City Hall was palpable. The morale of our police officers was low. And let me tell you something, that was not an easy vote. You know, I like to think of it a little bit like, you know, it's a lot worse, but you know, you don't like to spend the money when you have to fix your car or your computer. It wasn't fun. We would love to spend that money on sidewalks or trails or parks. But we had a choice to make. And sometimes leaders have to make a choice that isn't always what they want to do, but it's what has to be done. It was the least bad choice. And that's why myself and Council Members Andres, Coughlin, Mayor Bacher, and Councilmember Elwood all voted for it. Not because we wanted to give that money to him, but simply because the attorneys were telling us that we either paid a little bit now or we pay a lot later. And the real thing that's invaluable is that that police department was able to heal, we were able to move on, and we were able to get permanent leadership, a process to get a permanent leader for that department, and they were able to get back
Thank you,
to
Ken
policing
Bradberry.
and public safety.
Thank you. Candidate Weaver, you have 1 minute to respond.
When you talk about healing in the police department, I want to tell you I still have a lot of friends there, and that was not healing. That was one of the worst things that could have happened, because it ripped the police department apart. because you tell them that we have policies in place, you have rules in place to follow. And that is the Bible of the police officers and what they're supposed to be doing. But then you let this one individual who have been in the position only 3 months get away with it. That's what caused morale to be low. That's what ripped the police department apart. And that's why so many people were upset, because not only did he violate policies, but there was an administrative assistant that was involved, where a sexual harassment complaint was confirmed, and you voted for it anyway. Doesn't make any sense. You're talking about a tough decision. The tough decision would have been showing him the door to say, you can't violate our policies and procedures we have in
Thank you,
place,
candidate. The
and
time
hold
is
him
up.
accountable.
Now, candidate Bradberry, please ask your opponent a question.
I'm going to be here all night if you want to talk about this thing that we just talked about. I'm more than happy to. So my question, and it's been kind of a theme throughout this campaign, it seems like that there is a pattern where there are positions taken and espoused to one group, and then there are positions and statements made differently to another group. And the most emblematic of this, and I hate to bring in partisan politics, I've tried my best to simply be about Johns Creek and abiding by this being a nonpartisan election. But unfortunately, you know, I want to know why you would tell people or lead them to believe that maybe you're a Republican, but then back in March, you headlined to the Norfolk Democrats as a keynote speaker, quote, how to run for council as a Democrat.
Again, we all know that this municipal election is nonpartisan. So I wouldn't do anything that way. You know, I wouldn't do anything like that. So I don't know where my opponent's getting this information from. I'll tell everybody when I knock on that door, it's a nonpartisan election. Potholes are not Republican. They're not Democrat. They're just potholes that need to be fixed. Garbage is not Republican or not Democrat. It just needs to be picked up and cleaned. That's what I'm about getting the job done. And that's what I tell people. It's all about getting things done and taking care of our city and making sure we're doing what our community needs and meeting those needs as elected officials. It's not about party politics. It's not about Democrats. It's not about Republicans. It's about getting the job done. So I don't know where my opponent is getting the information from, but he's definitely spread it. Because a lot of people have asked me when I've knocked on their door, like, where'd you get that from? And I said, well, you know, I got it from, and they call their person name. And I said, okay, he's in the Bradberry camp. I get it. So he's definitely putting a lot of misinformation out there. I don't know why, but it's a non-partisan race, and I tell everybody that, and I knock on a lot of doors. I knock on Republican doors, I knock on Democrats' doors, and I tell everybody the same thing. It's non-partisan. Potholes are not Democrat, they're not Republican. Potholes are just potholes. What we do on the municipal level is get things done, make sure we're serving our community, and make sure we're doing it the right way. Even when I was a police officer and serving this community for over 40 years, I served Republicans and Democrats, and still do. So that would never change. I've been a public servant.
Thank you, candidate Weaver.
Thank you.
Candidate Bradberry, you have 1 minute for final remarks.
Okay, so what I will promise to do, I don't know if we can get it done tomorrow, but we'll try and get it done by over the weekend. I will post so that you know that I am shooting straight with you, and I will post the graphic that was for the North Fulton Democrats where Brian headlined that as a keynote speaker, how to run as a Democrat, which seems to be that the way you do that is by hiding what you're really about. And that's unfortunate because I think that we should be aware, you the voters, this is about the future of your community, our future. This should not be something that is like a mystery for you to determine what is real and what is not about your candidates for mayor. And so yes, there has been an effort to make this partisan. I mean, look, there has been a slate of candidates that you have been a part of, and you've got that right.
Thank
but
you,
let's just
Ken
be
and Bradberry.
open and straightforward about it.
Candidate Bradberry, do you support raising the stormwater fee to more quickly fix this issue? If yes, how? If not, how do you propose we stay ahead of system wear while repairing decades of disrepair?
So I was a little confused the way my opponent was referring to stormwater in the sense that it sounded like we had not done anything. So as all of you know, unfortunately, when you got the bill in the mail, you know that we have instituted a stormwater utility. And so that stormwater utility is there because basically there was not maintenance and repair being done to our stormwater infrastructure for the last 15 years. And so we are going to have to play catch up. Now, basically, the way we were was the city was responsible in the right-of-way, the first 3 or 4 feet. We expanded that scope to be head wall to head wall, a great expansion, and therefore it cost more money, and that's where the fee is going to be directed to doing triage to treat those areas of the city that are in most need. The question then becomes, what are we going to do for those areas that are beyond the head wall? I'm actually going to be hosting a town hall. It's going to be Saturday, October 2nd down at Newtown Park, so that we can talk to any of you that want to talk about my plans for how do we attack the other areas that are head wall, beyond the head wall. And I think that we can do this actually in such a way that it's not going to fall on the taxpayers of Johns Creek, but it actually takes the value of the improvements that are made and put it back into the system that will allow us to improve and make safe and secure the areas that are those conveyances that, some of these, they're just unsightly, but some are downright dangerous. There are cases in which they're eroding half of someone's backyard, and if you were there, you would worry that it's going to take over their deck or their patio one day. And so there are additional things that we need to do, but in government terms, we have moved at lightning speed in the last 2 years on stormwater. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Bradberry. Candidate Weaver, you have 2 minutes to respond.
I didn't repeat the question again.
Do you support raising the stormwater fee to more quickly fix this issue? If yes, how? If not, how do you propose we stay ahead of system wear while repairing decades of disrepair?
Well, right now, as you well know, you got the stormwater letter in the mail. And what we did in July, we hired 3 individuals that's doing nothing but stormwater. That's their job. And I made sure that we passed a stormwater ordinance before I resigned. That was one of my priorities. So after we put that in place, July 1st was the date that we hired 3 individuals doing nothing but stormwater. We bought them 3 vehicles, and so they're going all over the city now, inspecting what we have, and I equate it to driving your vehicle around for 15 years and not servicing your vehicle, then all of a sudden your engine light come on. Well, you got problems, you just don't know what. And once you take it in to be serviced, to find out what their problem is, they give you a priority list and tell you, this is priority, this is not. This is something that needs to be taken care of right now. And that's kind of where we are. So as far as raising the rate right now, it's kind of premature because we don't even know what we're dealing with, We don't know how long it's gonna take us. We don't know how bad it is. I think the report should be coming up soon from our stormwater utility unit. They should be giving us a report on how bad stormwater is. But I can tell you, visiting some of our residents, it's devastating. Some of the backyards have been washed away. I went to one gentleman's house that he had a bridge in his backyard over the Johns Creek years ago. And now he can't even get to the other side of his property because the bridge has been washed away. That's devastating. And he's retired, and now, instead of enjoying his house and enjoying his backyard that he spent time building the bridge, he has to sit there and look at it.
Thank you, Candidate Weaver. Candidate Bradberry, you have 1 minute for closing remarks.
Look, we're going to need to really, for this next phase, think outside the box. I think that what we have done to date has probably been the easier part of tackling stormwater. Everything from here on out, I think, gets incredibly more complicated and complex, and that's going to take, I think, a lot more study and analysis, some creativity. It's going to definitely take, I would like to do one thing, and we didn't really get to talk about our platforms as much as I would like to, but in building community, one of the things I talk about is, really tapping into our human capital. We have some incredibly bright people in Johns Creek, and I would really like to tap into that potential so that you could serve in helping figure out how can we make this problem better, and how do we brainstorm that through. And now it may not be that our citizens come up with all the answers, but I want to hear from you, I want to work with you, because again, for us to really push the ball forward, we're going to have to work together.
Thank you, Candidate Bradberry.
Thank you.
Mr. Weaver, how would you go about making Johns Creek's police department more integrated within our community?
Can you repeat the question? I didn't hear the second part of it.
How would you go about making the Johns Creek Police Department more integrated within our community?
That's a great question. Great question. Right in my wheelhouse. One of my initiatives that I started when I got on on the city council, what I call the Explorers program. It's supposed to start in January. And that program, what it does, it partners with career pathways in Fulton County schools. And if you hadn't heard about it, what it is, it's a work-based learning program where students leave the schools and go to different businesses to learn about different careers, whether it's medical, legal, financial, whatever it is, they learn a skill and learn how to be productive in that particular area. Well, the Explorers program is actually inviting our students to City Hall. Imagine that, to learn what we're doing every day here in the city. Architect, engineering, technology, communication. That program starts in January. Also, public safety, to learn about our police and fire. What better way to engage our youth and have that partnership between our community and youth than set up a program like that? I couldn't believe it was never done before, but I just happened to be having lunch and having a meeting with the area superintendent. And when I told him what my vision was to have an Explorers program, he was like, well, Brian, we already doing some of this. Why don't you look at what we're doing and just partner with us? They already had the capacity. All we have to do is partner with them. And that program starts in January. So that's just one of the ideas and one of my initiatives that when we always talk about privatizing and we got too many contract employees, what better segue to move away from that than to have interns who actually go to school here or who actually live here. Kids will be stakeholders to actually working here in the city, to keep the talent in the city, because we always talk about our kids graduate from college or graduate from high school and they leave Johns Creek and they never come back because they say there's nothing to do in Johns Creek. Well, we can change that with this program. We can change that by getting them engaged, by having jobs for them and having programs for them and getting them involved in the community. at making sure that they're doing what they can do to make a difference here in Johns Creek. Can you imagine the attitudes that they will have working here in City Hall? It'll be great. They'll be helping their neighbors. They'll be exploring. They'll be learning. They'll be doing what they want to do here in Johns Creek. Learning the trade, learning a skill, having a career, and at the same time making money. And they'll be future employees for the city. And that's something that we all
Thank you, Candidate Weaver.
Thank you.
I think this is going to be in my wheelhouse too. So I really think that, especially in light of that conversation that we had about the settlement, one of the reasons why I'm so glad that we were able to move on from that period in the city's history is that enabled us to make the process to find permanent leadership for our Johns Creek Police Department. And that process this year culminated in the hiring of our new police chief, Chief Mitchell. And Chief Mitchell, I think, is doing a good job from everything I've seen. He seems to be very conscientious, but he also seems to be very focused on inclusion and reaching out and community policing. And so not only has there been a lot of coffee with a cop, but there's also been a lot of cross-cultural interaction. And so obviously Johns Creek, we've got this beautifully diverse community, most diverse in Georgia. And so it's incredibly important that our police in all parts of our community are working together, that there's trust, that there's a comfort and confidence. And the way you build that is by building relationships, spending time together, communicating. And I think that we are hopefully going to see that the Johns Creek Police Department is going to really be in a new era where we are really showing the way. We are at the leading edge of how to really form that close community relationship between the police and the members of the community. And so that's something that I know I'm committed to. That's something that I see in our police officers. And so that's something that we will continue, and I want to strengthen.
Thank you, Candidate Bradberry.
Thank you very much.
Candidate Weaver, you have 1 minute for closing remarks.
Why not invest in our future? Our future are our kids. Our future are these bright, talented students that we read about in the paper getting awards for all our great high schools we have here in Johns Creek. This Explorers program, work-based learning program, partnership with Fulton County, it's going to just push us over the top on another level where we have more and more community engagement and bridge that gap between our youth, our community, and our police and fire. Guess what? You can graduate from high school, get hired by the police department, not the police department, but the fire department, because with the police department you have to be 21 because you got to carry a gun. But with the fire department, you can get hired and then go to college because the city has a tuition reimbursement program. So that's a great opportunity for some of these kids that want to get into
Thank you, Candidate Weaver.
Thank you.
We will now be moving on to the lightning round. Should the Legacy Center be a part of the town center plan? Yes or no?
Candidate Bradberry said no, and Candidate Weaver said yes.
Wait. I want to change my answer. Sorry.
So it looks like Candidate Bradberry
No, I
said
agree,
yes.
yes.
Okay.
I agree, yes, sorry.
You get 2 chances to vote.
The second question is, should the city in-house all departments rather than outsource many? Yes or no?
Can you repeat it?
Yes. Should the city in-house all departments rather than outsourcing many? Yes or no?
Say all of them.
So should we insource? Insource?
Should the city in-house all departments rather than outsource many?
We should bring public works in-house.
Yeah.
The third question is, if public health concerns warrant it, would you support a mask mandate in the city? Yes or no?
Candidate Weaver said yes, and candidate Bradberry said no.
All right.
There's no speaking.
We're now continuing with the regular questions. Candidate Bradberry, what specific experiences and skills do you have that will enable you to foster a better sense of collaboration within our city council?
I would love to get some nuance on the lightning round questions, but I don't think that's going to be allowed. Look, I have served 4 years on the city council. I had thought very seriously about running for mayor 4 years ago. There were some issues that I thought that I would like to see us move in a different direction. But, actually it was this time 4 years ago that we were told that the candidate that was also running in the mayor's election bowed out. So we didn't have really an election. But my determination was that I would be smart to spend my time and get my experience on council so that I would be better prepared to be a more effective mayor for our community. Now, I have not simply warmed a chair while I've been on council. I have been somebody that has crafted the creative compromises that have sometimes been necessary to move important legislation forward to passage. I have been somebody that has written the legislation on complex topics that has eventually gotten passed. I've been somebody that has offered made the arguments that have shaped the debate, or I've offered the ideas that have formed a new consensus. And I hate to say it, but this is something that my opponent cannot say. And so if you look at it, if past performance on council is any indication, any future predictor of performance as mayor, then I think I'm the only qualified candidate in this race. And so it's got to be that we are going to work together. I want to see Johns Creek City Council not be one of drama. I don't want it to be like a sideshow. I want us to stay focused on getting done the work of the people. I want to make sure that we are not doing paralysis by analysis. I want us to have the discussion, everyone gets a chance to speak, but at the end of the day, we need to make decisions. And so when we talk about the town center, the current draft plan says this is something that's going to be a 15 to 20-year enterprise. Well, I'm sorry, but I don't think we've got 15 or 20 years to get off our duff and to get going. There are neighbors around us that they are cleaning our clock. We've got to get going. I think it's going to take someone that's got some experience. I look forward to the opportunity. And again, that is something that I think if we have the right leader, that we will work together, that we will try to make sure that everyone has input and everyone gets to be part of the process, that we can build consensus and so that we can do it together. And that's why the theme of our campaign is Forward Together. I want to move Johns Creek forward together.
Thank you, candidate Bradberry.
Candidate Weaver, you have 2 minutes to respond.
It's all about leadership. It's all about leadership. It's all about being able to work with all kinds of people. I've done that 37 years in serving in the police department, law enforcement, 26 years with Fulton County, 11 years here in Johns Creek. I've done that. I've worked with people all different ages, very diverse group, to get the job done, to make sure that we were doing what we were supposed to do. So I've done that. I've done that over the years. So I'm used to working with people with different experiences. People who are older than me, people who are younger than me, people who don't look like me, people who do look like me. I'm used to doing that. That's what it was all about over my whole career. That's why I was successful. That's what we have here in Johns Creek. That's why we have a new council that's running. That's different from ever before. It's totally different. Believe it or not, the demographics here in Johns Creek have changed. We have a lot of new candidates, which is good. It's good to have that interest because you bring in new ideas. But me as your leader, I would make sure that everybody's heard, that we stay on point, that we make sure we get the job done. And I don't know if you've been watching some of our city council meetings, but sometimes they get kind of rough. I was on there a year and a half, and I can tell you they get kind of rough. And sometimes some of the city council people get up and storm out. You can check that out on YouTube, it's there. But I will make sure our city council people, council members stay in the room, making sure we get the job done, making sure we're doing what we were elected to do, and making sure we have that shared vision to make sure we get the town center done, to finish Colley Creek Park, take care of our stormwater, make the tough choices. And yes, they will be inexperienced, but I'll be there.
Thank you,
along
Candidate
with some of
Weaver.
the other. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Bradberry, you have 1 minute for closing remarks.
It's true, we are going to have a very young, inexperienced council. The most senior member of council will be Chris Coughlin, a good friend. He got elected the year before me, but he's less than 4 years old. I'm jealous. But you know, we are going to have 5 of the 7 positions on the ballot this election. So it's going to be a very new council, which is going to mean that it's even more important that you are educated, that you get informed, that you're able to discern exactly who it is that you're voting for, who it is that is running for the community, who it is that's running maybe with another agenda. And so we have basically the future of Johns Creek on the ballot this November. And so I am someone that will work with anybody and everybody on the council. And
Thank
I
you,
look forward
Candidate
to
Bradberry.
working with you.
Mr. Weaver, the bond money dedicated to improving the city's parks are running out. What specific proposals do you have to completing our strategic parks plan without needing another bond? Or are you in favor of another bond?
I would say we have to look at it, the whole view. Is it beneficial? How do we come out in this last bond? Do we have the money to do what we need to do without the bond? So it's something that we need to sit down and look at and cover all the bases and make sure that our decision is not premature. But we have to make sure what we do is the right thing to do and what we do is meeting the needs of our community and making sure that we cover all the bases. The strategic plan is very important. So I need to make sure that we're covering all the bases, and as your mayor, I will make sure we do that. Let's look at the long term. Strategic plans normally 3, 5 years, 5 to 10 years. So what do we want to do, where we want to be? We have to decide that. And we should get input from our community. We should get input not only from the community, but look at the city council members, you know, and listen at them. What do they have to bring to the table? What experiences, you know? What's best for the community? Look at how well we did with this last bond. If it's something we think we need to do it again, then let's do it again. If it doesn't make sense, then we won't. We have to make sure we make the best decision, but looking overall, long term, we have to decide, where are we now? Is that where we want to be, or do we want to be in a better position with another strategic plan and do another bond? So the opportunities are there. I think we just have to make the decision and make sure we're doing it the right way and making sure we cover all the bases. Because things change, interest rates change, our economy changed, so we might have to make sure that we consider all that. And right now, with the interest rates low, then we'll consider that. But is that going to put us where we need to be? And that's what we need to think about. And that's what we need to consider, and making sure we have a robust discussion. We have bring not only our staff in and seeing where we are, but then also look at what other areas are doing to making sure that we getting the bang for our buck, and are we doing the right thing, and are we doing the best thing for the city and for our community. So that's what I would do to make sure we covering all the bases and making sure we getting our bang for our buck and making sure we looking at all the possibilities, because we have to make sure that we're doing what we need to do and being physically responsible, because that's why we're elected, and that's why we serve in these positions, and that's why we're public servants. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Bradberry, you have 2 minutes to respond.
So one of the things that the council just approved was that rather than simply spending money on a transportation master plan, we actually spent some money to have an analysis done of our strategic parks plan, so that we are very well aware of exactly where we stand in terms of what are the needs, what have we got. We have added 5 new parks, and that is something that we have spent a lot of money from the Parks Bond and from the excess reserve fund that we have. And we have literally added, it's 240 acres at Collier Creek, and then you've got the linear park, and then you've also got 3 pocket parks. Now, we have got to assess what is the impact that that's going to be on our budget ongoing, because obviously there's going to be a huge maintenance cost. We also have to figure out what are going to be the programming needs. And so I want to see us really get a good idea, kind of a check in to see what is it that we've got to do to take care of what we have today. And I think that's important before we even talk about moving forward with another parks bond. Now I will say this, when it comes to a parks bond, that is something that's done through a referendum. And so I feel somewhat differently about that than I do other items, because it does give the voter an opportunity to directly vote and determine what they feel is best. But I do think that it's important that we at least be able to be very educated as a community and all be on the same page on exactly where we are. And then finally, I'll just say this. We have got in Johns Creek basically 4 things that I think we can really stand out in. Outdoor recreation and sports is one of those that I think that we should develop to further burnish our brand as a standout community. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Weaver, you have 1 minute to make final remarks.
We definitely need to make sure that we include our community, make sure they have buy-in on this and listen to them. But also as elected officials, we have to make sure we're doing what we're supposed to do and being physically responsible. So with us being able to get input from our community, I think that's the best thing, and then weigh those options we have, and then look at the strategic plan, and then see where we are now. But the bottom line is, does it make sense? And we have to evaluate it based on what we have now and what we're thinking about doing, and then whether or not there's a possibility for us to increase some of the amenities that we have in the parks now, because that money can only be spent for our parks. We can't move that money around. We can't take it out of the budget and put it somewhere else. We must use it for the parks. So we have to make sure that we're doing that, and we have to make sure we're good stewards with the money, and making sure we're planning appropriately to meet the needs of our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Weaver.
This will be the final question of the evening. It is 4 years from now. What one thing do you specifically want to be able to say that you, as mayor, specifically proposed and accomplished?
the one single thing, obviously, that we want to be able to say that we've accomplished is the town center. Obviously, that's going to be a longer-term project, but I would like to think that within 4 years, we would have made incredible headway, and hopefully we have something to show for any time and effort that we have put into it. And so, like I said earlier, I think that with that area that we actually own, I'm very confident that we will make that happen, and in 4 years, we will all have been in our new town center, and we will have enjoyed it, and hopefully we will be able to enjoy it with all of our families and friends here in Johns Creek. As we move forward, I think that that is where the real visioneering is going to be required, to see what are we able to do in that area outside what we own. And so that is what I'm hoping, because that's really where the value add of your mayor, of your leadership is going to come in what are we able to create? What are we able to make happen as a leader? And that's going to require creativity, that's going to require determination, proactive action. And so I will be reaching out to anyone and everyone that I think can play a contributing role in helping us to create this great town center area. And so that's going to be the key players in government from maybe the region. That's going to be commercial partners, developers, and different businesses, and obviously any key personnel at City Hall, like department heads or obviously the city manager. And so that is something that I hope that in 4 years from now, I would love it to be time for a re-election campaign and for us to have a good time in our new town center. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Bradberry. Candidate Weaver, you have 2 minutes to respond.
Well, definitely, town center is our crown jewel that we all are waiting and looking forward to. That's something that's going to help our economic development. That's something that's going to keep our people here in Johns Creek spending their tax dollars here. That's something that's going to bring our community closer together. It will make us a destination instead of just a cut through. And that's what we need. We deserve better. Johns Creek is a city of almost 90,000 people in high 80s, but in 32 square miles, but we have nothing but a few restaurants to spend and wine and dine with. I see people all the time doing this campaign and the last campaign. They're loading up in limousines and cabs and cars, and they're leaving the city. They're leaving Johns Creek, going to wine tasting contests. They're going to festivals all over the metro area, Alpharetta, Roswell, because there's nothing to keep them here. So what I would like to do is have that town center developed in a way where we can start enjoying it. And of course, it will be done in phases, but make sure Johns Creek is a destination. And I'll be able to enjoy it, like all of you will be able to enjoy it. And we can say, hey, let's go to Johns Creek and spend our day. Hey, let's go to Johns Creek and go to a concert. Hey, let's go to Johns Creek and go to a fine dining. Hey, let's go to Johns Creek and just walk down the town center and get that feel of what it's like to be a city and have something to do here in Johns Creek besides work, school, and come to our homes. Right now, every time you get ready to do something, you leave Johns Creek, and I'd like to change that to make us a destination and make this a place that we all can be proud of, and you improve your quality of life and spend your money.
Thank
so
you,
that's
Candidate
what I like to do as a mayor.
Candidate Bradberry, you have 1 minute for final remarks.
So I think it's important that we keep in mind exactly what the goals are for the town center. It's supposed to be about us. It's supposed to be about increasing quality of life for all of you, our residents, and for economic development purposes. That's why I think that we need to be focused on what is this going to do to bring new businesses, rather than necessarily thousands and thousands of new residents. We're obviously going to have a residential component, but again, I think that you're going to want a mayor that's going to ensure that we have balance and that we have good judgment so that we're not going to, in a sense, give away the store. We want to make sure that this is going to be an amenity that's going to add to our community without overwhelming it and our infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, each of the candidates will have 2 minutes for their closing statements. Candidate Bradberry, you are first in your closing statement.
I want to thank all of you for coming out tonight. I know that Johns Creek must be very important to you, or all of you wouldn't be here tonight. And so you literally are the people that are going to determine how this election goes. You're going to be the people that are going to be informed, educated, and that hopefully you're going to share what you've heard here tonight. I hope that if you like what you heard from me, that you will think about getting involved in our campaign. I think that the future of Johns Creek is very bright. I think that we stand to be really not just a great city, but as you've heard me say earlier, a great community. And that to me is going to pay big dividends when it comes to quality of life, not just for all of us, but especially our kids. And that's whether it's physically, socially, economically, especially with the town center and with human capital. And so I just want to make sure that we focus on the fact that at the end of the day, you know, we may all have different backgrounds. We are the most diverse city in Georgia, but we are all here for basically the same reasons. We all came here because we wanted great schools for our kids, we wanted safety for our families, and we want to make sure that we have a high quality of life. Those are noble goals. Those are things that unite us. We should never be divided. We should be one people. We should be one community. I want to provide that kind of leadership. I want to be that kind of example as your mayor. I look forward to the rest of the campaign, and I look forward to hearing from you after this tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Candidate Bradberry. Candidate Weaver, you have 2 minutes for your closing remarks.
I get it right. Thank you for coming out tonight. I want to thank the Standing Club again for inviting me. I would like to be your next mayor. I will be your next mayor with your support. I think Johns Creek, and I know Johns Creek has a lot of resources. We have a lot to be proud of, our schools, you know, our communities. But we could do a lot better. For the last few years, we have not reached our full potential. And I think I can help us get that full potential with the town center, with the Legacy Arts Center moving. I've just been on city council a year and a half. Some of my accomplishments are starting the mobile crisis unit to make sure we deal with the mentally ill and people that are in distress, to relieve the burden off our police officers. Starting the Explorers program to engage our youth, to make sure that we are making sure their career pathways is on the right track. Because guess what? If we don't give our youth options, somebody else will, and we might not like it. So this is our opportunity, my opportunity as your mayor, to galvanize our community, to bring our community together, to make sure Johns Creek is a safe and desirable place for all families, and something we can all be proud of, and continue to help our small business, continue to promote our economic development, and continue to make sure we're doing what our community needs. And that is making sure Johns Creek is a place that we all can be proud of, and a place that we can make as a destination, and a place that I know you will want to invite your friends, keep your families here, and spend your money in Johns Creek if you can make sure that you have a place to improve your quality of life.
Thank you,
And
Candidate
that's what I will
Weaver.
do as your next mayor. Thank you for having me tonight. Thank you.
Now, can we please get a round of applause for both our candidates? Thank you. Personally, I would like to thank everyone who came out tonight. I would like to thank the candidates, and I would also like to thank Ms. Sanders and Ms. Cooper for allowing us and making this possible. And now I'd like to give it to Tia and Shruti to conclude the debate.
We hope everyone turns out to vote. The last day to register is October 4th, and the election is going to be November 2nd. So please vote and choose whoever you think will be the best for Johns Creek.
Thank you.
I know.
Could I get all of the ambassadors and our dignitaries up here with the candidates, because we wanted to get a group shot. All of our ambassadors. Yeah, you can turn that on.